Hey folks, welcome back to Ken Michaels Radio. Thanks to all of you who have joined me for all these incredible conversations I've had with people talking about the Beatles. And as you know, here on this channel, we interview all types of people, musicians, authors, podcasters, you name it. And this time, Matt, we're doing something special. I hope that most of you or all of you are familiar with the podcast shows that I do. One of which is called Things We Said Today. That's a bi-weekly show where we cover everything about the Beatles group and solo. And then there's this other podcast called Talk More Talk, a solo Beatles videocast, also a bi-weekly show. But we all talk about primarily the solo Beatles. It's a rare moment when we get to talk about the group, except when there's a new release, like we just did with Let It Be, with the box set, and no doubt we'll be talking quite a lot on that show on the Get Back documentary series that will be premiering on Disney Plus the end of this month, November of 2021. But I thought it might be a good idea to bring on my comrades here on the show of Talk More Talk and have a Beatles conversation. And I'll tell you more about that in just a moment. Let's welcome, first of all, Kit O'Toole, the queen of Beatles social media, the queen of Motown, author of many books, Songs We Were Singing, guided tours of the Beatles' lesser-known works, also Michael Jackson FAQ, All That's Left to Know About the King of Pop. See, long titles, and I have them all memorized. That's amazing. And Beatles and their, what was it? The short one I don't get. Beatles and Their Fandom with Ken Womack. Anyway, welcome, Kit.
Thank you, Ken. It's great to be back on your show and great to be here on an off night with my friends.
I know we're always getting together Monday night. We're doing this on a Thursday night. We'll see if that affects us. Can we still function on a different night of the week?
I don't know.
Three on Thursday.
Also, we have Tom Hunyadi, who is one half of the excellent solo Paul McCartney podcast called Two Legs with Andy Nichols. Hi, Tom.
Hello, Ken, Kit, Joe. Ken, it's great to be back on here. Thank you. I always look forward to see who you're going to have on this show, and I'm glad your subscribers numbers are going up, and I mean a lot of people are watching, and I'm really happy for this channel. And you know, it's doing good. It's doing good.
It's going up.
You're
up,
good.
Up,
you.
up.
You're good. You.
And we've got JOE MAYO, also known as Mean Mr. Mayo, who's anything but mean.
That's
and
right.
He has his own YouTube channel where he does everything about pop culture, lots on the Beatles, his Fab Gab feature, all kinds of stuff. It runs the gamut. You could spend an hour talking about all that he does. He just did something on Connie Francis.
Yes, I did a Connie Francis video today, folks. I know a lot of you out there are going to want to see that. He did end I Love Her, I believe.
Okay. Well, I always loved a lot of her records from the early 60s when she was far bigger than most people realize. She was
be
at
in the Rock
the
and Roll Hall of
time.
Fame.
Yes, she should
too.
Got a lot of hits.
She was the #1 singles artist for females for quite a long time. Anyway, so on my channel
Wait a
this
minute.
time,
I think I have the wrong list here today for the show. I have the Connie Francis list.
Where's everybody somebody's fool, Joe?
All right. I got
it. You just got Connie on your brain lately. So on the show this time, I thought we'd have a bit of fun with an idea that every now and then on my radio show, every little thing I've done in the podcast shows too. I like to talk about songs that should have been singles. And we all know that in the Beatles and the solo Beatles catalog, if you've really studied it, there's got to be a lot of songs that you thought would have been hits, but they weren't chosen as singles for some reason. And because of the fact that these guys that I work with almost always talk about the solo Beatles, I thought it might be cool for a change of pace to do one on the group with them and talk about songs that they think should have been singles. Now, to be specific, I'm only talking about in America. And I'm saying that because in America, we had a number of singles that weren't singles in the UK. Although all the singles that came out in the UK did come out as singles here in America, although B-sides might have varied. But I'm sure that for many of you watching this right now, you might have thought over the years, gee, that song was so good. Why didn't they release that as a single? And at the same time, let's be honest, the Beatles dominated the charts during those years of 1964 through 1970. They certainly didn't need more hits, but they could have had plenty more singles. And in 1964, you know, I was a little kid at the time, but I remember so well how radio was so saturated with the Beatles, especially the first half of that year, because of all the singles that came out at the same time on Capitol Records, on VJ, on Swan. We all know about that first week in April when they had the top 5 singles on the charts.
Right.
You know, there certainly was no shortage of hit records on the Beatles' part. But my point is, for all the hits they had, they could have had plenty more. So I thought I'd talk to my co-hosts here on Talk More Talk and get an idea for songs that they felt would have been hit records. And just let me make sure that I clear this up. These don't have to be favorites of yours. You have to put yourself in the mindset of this is the 60s or through 1970 when The Long and Winding Road came out. What songs would have worked on the radio as singles? You might love Helter Skelter, but I don't think Helter Skelter would have been a big hit on AM radio. I have a hunch it just might not have gone that far on the singles charts. These are all songs that you feel in your heart could have been really big hits. And also,
now we're talking like top 3 when we think big hits. We're talking top 10.
The top 10 is certainly respectable.
Right.
Yeah, I would say top 10 songs that you imagine in your head. How could they miss?
Right.
You know. So I thought we'd go around the table here, and we'd each pick one song at a time. Each of us 3 songs in total, and find out what our choices are. It'll be interesting how our choices vary, and if any of us say the same song.
Well,
So,
Ken, this would have been a lot easier if you'd asked which songs would not make.
probably,
Because I have a lot of songs.
Revolution number 9 would not have been a hit.
No.
That's easy.
As much of a banger as it is,
Right.
it wouldn't.
Can't dance
It's a
to it.
toe tapper. Anyway, so out of respect for Joe, because so many times on Talk More Talk, when Tom gives his list, they turn out to be songs that Joe had in mind, and then he gets all frustrated. Why don't we go with Joe first?
Okay, now how many do you want in one shot?
Just
One.
one. We're going to do
Just
one at a
Okay,
time.
we'll do one. I'm gonna go a little bit different. I think my number one people might have. I'm gonna go with the one that from the Hard Day's Night album, Anytime at All, which I think is such a good John vocal, such a good intense rocker, but yet poppy at the same time. I see it number 1. Although at that time the Beatles couldn't really do much wrong, so everything was like getting to number 1 unless you'd have Engelbert Humperdinck or somebody like, in the way with Release Me or something like that. But,
Hey, that was
yeah.
in the UK, Joe. That was just in the UK that
Oh, okay.
stopped the Beatles.
Yeah, we're talking the US.
Yeah.
I think and specifically in the US, I think this would have been a big hit Anytime at All. Yeah, I think it's one of the best songs from that era, and certainly one of the best off a Hard Day's Night. And that's my first pick. Anytime at all.
And it's also worth noting that if you're talking about songs in that early period, and like I said, the first half of 1964, the Beatles really were all over the charts. It's kind of hard to even add more during that time period. But still, we're just going from the heart, what you really feel would be a big hit, regardless, even if they had the top 5. Even if every song from number 5 to number 1 was a Beatles song, somehow the song that you're thinking of could also have been in the top 10 at the same time. All right, Tom, you are next.
Well, thank you, Ken. I'm going to August of '66, and as much as I love, or a lot of people love Yellow Submarine, I thought maybe that might not have been the best choice as a single, even though it did go to number 2. You can't deny that. However, it's August. What's August? It's sunny. It's summer. I'm going with Good Day Sunshine as a single. And it's poppy. It's fun. And Joe must have had that. I mean, I think it's still reminiscent of that Beatlemania era. If you want to consider from like 63 to 65, it's still safe for the teenagers. It's still safe for the parents. I think this would have been appealing to all ages, even seniors. I mean, who doesn't love a good day sunshine? I just think it's a wonderful track that could have been a hit single, at least the top 3, hopefully number 1.
I can't argue with you there. It's one of the great sing-along songs. Everybody sings along to that one.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Kit, you are next.
All right, I'm going with one of my all-time favorite Beatles songs that I can't believe wasn't a single, Drive My Car. I can't believe this wasn't. I mean, I talk about catchy. I mean, that, the beep, 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 beep. Yeah. I mean, who can't sing along to that? And it stays in your head. It stays in your head. Did I take another one off your list?
No.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
joking because people who watch my channel know that's one of my lesser Beatles
no. And I love the lyrics. It's really they're so clever. But those tight harmonies with John and Paul. I mean, it just stays. It stays with you. It's such a memorable song. And yes, you can dance to it, but I mean, it's true. You can. I've just thought I've been baffled why this wasn't released as a single. I mean, I think this could have gone top 10 easily.
Yeah, I could hear it as a number 1. Definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, even though I'm not very fond of it personally, I could see that being a good choice for single.
And it's easy to understand why it was the lead-off track on the UK version. To me.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's also worth pointing out that the Beatles did so many things unlike a lot of other artists, but there were plenty of singles the Beatles released strictly as singles. And then at the same time, they had albums that they released where there were no singles.
Right?
Yeah.
It's so hard to believe that in the 60s anyway, that there were no singles from Sgt. Pepper.
Right.
But in the summer of 67, you still had All You Need Is Love at the same time. And like the White Album.
Don't stop. Yep.
And by the way, these are, we're looking at if you were in the 60s. Because I know that later on, after the Beatles broke up, there were singles that came out. Got to Get You Into My Life was a top 10 single in 1976 when the compilation of rock and roll music came out. If you want to say that in this list, that's fine, because you're putting yourself in the 60s anyway. But it's proof right there that so many years later, that was a huge hit. Okay. And I also know certain songs were released as singles later on, like Oh Blah Da was, but we're doing this as though it's still the 60s or up through the Long and Winding Road as singles. Okay. My number 3 pick is a song that I've often said is just euphoria for me, and that's And Your Bird Can Sing.
Wow.
Which it's 2 minutes of bliss. There's so much that's packed into those 2 minutes. It's so damn catchy. The dual guitar parts, the great bass line, the harmonies. I don't know how you can't be hooked on that song after one listen, so I definitely can see that, could have seen that as a single, and like you said, Tom, how can you possibly debate, with Yellow Submarine? It was a number 2 hit. It was a major hit. It was a success, but they could have had more success from Revolver.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So, And Your Bird Can Sing is my number 3 choice.
Cool.
All right. So let's go to our number 2s. And this time we'll start with Tom.
Okay. Well, picture this. Hey Jude is out August of '68. Get Back is out May of '69. So that's pretty big gap. Let's put something in between there. Let's put Birthday in between there. And you know, again, I mean, it's safe. It's like another one of those safe songs that, you know, the young kids could get into and the elders can get into, and then everybody in between. It's got a very catchy riff, in my opinion. And who doesn't have a birthday except for Kit once every how many years?
He doesn't have a birthday.
You were born, was it Leap Day? Is that your birthday?
Yes.
Oh, that's
Yep.
why you're saying that. I forgot.
Tom,
that.
did you
Okay,
have
yeah.
that thought out in advance, or did you just think of it now?
Just popped in my mind. But again, I mean, I know we're still right in kind of like AM radio is still, you know, kind of king at that point. FM is it coming into but they're playing a lot of you know, deep cuts, a lot of album, you know, a lot of full albums and stuff like this. I really think Birthday, you know, even though it is heavy, it is loud, but it's a friendly heavy and a friendly loud, and I don't think you turn that away. I think it's an easy top 5. I mean, heavier music is starting to get more and more common. I mean, you think of Jimi Hendrix, you think of Cream, you know, playing, you know, loud, and the Who were playing, you know, heavy, loud music as well. So I think Birthday could have done a, you know, very well, top 10, top 5, maybe.
Yeah, excellent choice. And even though we're talking about AM radio, because that really is who made the hits.
Right.
FM radio was coming into play, and they were playing all album cuts from the Beatles and the new rock stars of that time, like Jimi Hendrix. So a song like Birthday was played on both AM and FM. You know, got massive airplay, and still to this day, there are a lot of radio stations that use that introduction when they're announcing the birthdays of their listeners. So yeah, excellent choice right there. Kit, you are next.
Well, thank goodness you a few minutes ago gave me permission to use this. Got to get you into my life.
Yeah, that's a natural, that one.
All right.
Yeah, because again, if you're talking about in the 60s, why this was not released as a single is baffling, because kind of piggybacking on what you were saying, Tom, I mean, perfect summer single.
Yeah,
I mean, you know, it's same as Good Day Sunshine in a way. You know, it's got that good vibes kind of sound, and it also has, you know, crossover appeal as well, because it's that salute to Motown kind of sound. It's got, you know, we love horns. It's got plenty of horns. It's got that. That's I'm not going to say it. Don't worry. And it's got the. You know what I mean?
Don't cross that over into my channel.
I won't. Don't worry.
This is a clean channel.
I'm respectful.
Very clean.
Yes, this is a family channel, and it's you know, it's got, of course, you know, even though Joe and I are very disappointed when we found out what it's really about, but but you know, but it's got just, you know, great lyrics that, you know, everybody can relate to. I mean, it's just a good feeling kind of song. I mean, this I think #1 easily, and of course, as you mentioned, Ken, it was re-released in the 70s. It did quite well. Earth, Wind and Fire, as we all know, had a big hit with a cover with this.
And this kind of predates Blood, Sweat and Tears in Chicago a little bit.
Sure,
you know,
good point.
Yeah, and well, you know, in the 60s, you did have bands that that used horns, like the Buckinghams, for example, used it a lot on their records. But yeah, it was like the precursor to bands like Blood, Sweat and Tears in Chicago, Tower of Power, and those bands. Yeah. Okay, Joe, you're next.
You know, it's tough because I'm sitting here trying to see which one to use, because I like them all. I like them all for the subject equally. I'm going to go with one that is an example, just to prove that it's not necessarily a song that I particularly love. It's a great song, but just not a favorite. And how could this not have been released as a single? I have no idea. Although it was popular from the album, I'm going for off the Rubber Soul album, Michelle. I don't know how that couldn't have been offered up as a single. I would think, all those lovers out there would really want to listen to that. It would sound good coming on your car radio. Most of the time when I'm thinking of like hit songs, I'm thinking really like zippy commercial ones. But hey, we could have "Ode to Billy Joe" or something like that also be a hit. Slow songs. And Michelle's just one of the great love songs. So I think it would have been a natural hit, maybe even up to number one. We don't know what number would be. What else would have blocked things? That from that period. But yeah, I think it had a potential to go to one.
Yeah, Rubber Soul, the American Rubber Soul, didn't have any singles from it. And yeah, that's another thing. There was a duo called David and Jonathan that had a hit with the song. It was a top 20 hit. But AM radio in those days, the Beatles were so big that AM radio played album cuts from the Beatles as well. And I'm often reminded that when Meet the Beatles exploded the way that it did, AM stations were not just playing "I Want to Hold Your Hand" and "I Saw Her Standing There." They were playing also the other cuts. The album itself was on the charts, on their singles charts, as though everything was a hit. So you heard Michelle quite a lot on AM radio anyway, the Beatles version.
Right.
So, all right, my number 2 choice is actually going to be one where I'm going to repeat one that one of you guys said, and that's "Anytime at All." The Beatles, and I often think about a suggestion that George Martin made for "Can't Buy Me Love," which was originally the song was going to start out with the voices, and George Martin said, no, start the song with the chorus. It hooks you right in. They did the same thing really with a song like "She Loves You," so they had done that before anyway. But "Anytime at All" goes right into the chorus for a second, drum beat, and it sucks you right in. It's such a catchy chorus right there. The whole thing flows so well. Like you said, Joe, John's vocals are just great throughout that song. I love the solo in there with the piano. It's you can say this about so many Beatle records. I hate to sound repetitive, but they pack so much into just 2 minutes or 2 minutes and 10 seconds. This is a perfect song to me. Almost every single song from "A Hard Day's Night" could have been a single, in my opinion. Maybe not "When I Get Home," but just about everything else. And here in America, we did have singles like "If I Fell" and "I Love Her" as well. It wasn't just "A Hard Day's Night" and "Can't Buy Me Love." We also had "I'll Cry Instead" as a single here in the US. So that's proof of, the songs from "A Hard Day's Night" really resonating so well, working so well on AM radio. Although
and these singles weren't like 4 or 5 months apart. I mean, these singles were like one right after another. There was like no slowing it down.
I thought "I'll Cry Instead" was a weak choice for a single. Didn't do very high, right? But sometimes singles are put out. I don't know, what would you call it? Almost like an extra single or something like that. I mean, from the album, where maybe they weren't thinking it was going to have number one potential. I don't know if they did or not, but I don't find that one such a good pick. "I'll Cry Instead," and not just because it didn't make top 5, but for a single.
I love "I'll Cry Instead." I don't know if I would have picked it as a single, but I don't think they would have released it unless they thought it had potential.
Right.
So
and Dick Lester didn't put it in the movie.
That's true. But still, everything from that time period, 64, and the songs that at least made the British "A Hard Day's Night," and the American, although it was half Beatles and half instrumental. All right, so let's go to our number 1 choices, and this time we'll start with the Queen.
All right, thank you, Ken. And with many of these songs, I had to double check to make sure they weren't released as singles, because we know them so well,
Right.
and we've heard them so many times that you just have to check and like, really, these weren't released as single. You know, I had to refresh my memory to make sure. And this was one of them. In My Life, I think would have been a great single, because it has such timeless appeal. You know, people love it to this day. It's got that sentimental you know, aspect to it. And you know, it's something that everybody can relate to. It's also got that pop, you know, crossover appeal. It's not you know, it's not harder rock. And of course, you know, in the mid 60s, there was still that sound going on. I mean, there was still you know, we were talking about Connie Francis earlier. I mean, there was still, you know,
throwback.
There's still that kind of throwback sound. And well, I mean, I'm not comparing this record to Connie Francis, but I'm just saying it was this, you know, that this would appeal to multi-generations. You know, is what I'm saying. I mean, parents would enjoy this record as much as their kids would. And it's, you know, I mean, my gosh, you hear this at weddings probably to this day. And I just think this could have had, I don't know if it'd be number one, but definitely I think top 10. I just think this is a timeless appeal kind of track, and one of my all-time favorites.
Yeah, I certainly think it's so revered now as a song, and deservedly so. But are you saying, Kit, with this multi-generational appeal, it kind of in a way might remind you of Yesterday? Because Yesterday had a way of appealing to the older generation who suddenly took notice of the Beatles. They weren't just this pop band. There's serious music here being made.
That's a good point. And I think it would have the same, you know, the same kind of appeal as Yesterday did. You know, so yeah, and I think another example of taking, you know, that maybe other generations taking the Beatles more seriously. And so yeah, In My Life has the same kind of appeal. So good point.
Yeah, and the George Martin solo in the middle, the piano solo, which was made to sound like a harpsichord, kind of gave it like a Baroque feel in a way. So again, you know, and that may seem like a stretch to some people, but with Yesterday and Eleanor Rigby and all these songs that have a classical arrangement to them, that could definitely appeal to more sophisticated audiences and older people. So yeah. All right, Joe, you are next.
I was thinking how for Sergeant Pepper there wasn't a single, and I'm wondering, well, you know, I'm thinking, well, what would be the best choice for a single if they're going to put something out? And while I like
Only a Northern Song,
yeah, which I like, but while I do like Sergeant Pepper / With a Little Help from My Friends, you know, I think that would have been good. But later on, they wound up putting that out late anyway.
Yep. In the 70s.
I know you could use it. I know you still could use it that if we wanted, within the context of the 60s. But anyway, I thought maybe one even better, and that's Getting Better. I thought might have been a good choice for a single in '67. You know, it's pop. It's up, but it's also got like that middle part when it gets a little weird sounding for the Used to Be Cruel part. It changes, shifts, and then it gets back into it. It has enough psychedelic kind of feelings while still being a pop song to be a hit, I think, at that particular time with everything else that was going on in '67 on the radio. Be a summer hit, I think.
All right. Very good point there. Blending the psychedelic with a top 40 feel that could have worked very well on AM radio. All right. So I guess that leaves me with my number one choice. And this is something that I felt for quite a long time. And I have to admit that living in the New York area, this has influenced my opinion. For many years, we've had a radio station, WCBS FM, which is like the oldie station in New York. Although demographically their music is not the same as it once was, that goes more from, say, the 70s on up, and they don't play as much 60s as they once did, but they played this song just like it was a single. And so many times when I listened to the station, you would have thought this was a single based on this radio station. And it works so well. And the song that I picked was You're Gonna Lose That Girl.
Oh,
I mean, the
Yep.
Beatles had this knack, and you could say this about so many of their songs. You could say that about any time at all. Leaps right in with the title, right? Just like Help, in a way. So it's 2.5 minutes of great melody, great harmonies. There's a shift there in the music. It's such an interesting song, and I don't know how anybody listening to that song once can't love that song. They could do no wrong at this point. And just like I said about the songs from A Hard Day's Night, I would pick any song from Help pretty much, and it could have been a hit.
That's what I was just about to say. There were
yeah.
a lot of potential singles on that soundtrack. I mean, The Night Before, Another
Yeah.
Girl. I mean,
Right.
number.
Yeah, and you talk Another Girl, another song that starts right in with the song title.
Yeah.
They knew exactly how to suck you in, immediately from the first few seconds of the song, and they learned their craft really well. And George Martin had a lot to do with that. And yeah, I love the guitar solo in You're Gonna Lose That Girl. Had that girl group back and forth call and answer stuff, that I love so much from the early years, but more sophisticated at this point in 1965. So well constructed and well crafted. And yeah, like you said, Kit, The Night Before, Another Girl, I Need You, I think might have been a hit as well. Every song from that movie could have worked, and the sound quality was so amazing of those songs as well. There's an atmosphere. I've talked about this. I don't remember which podcast. I've done so many shows, I don't remember where I've said anything anymore. But there's there's like an atmosphere. There's maybe it's like an echo or reverb in the studio. Like you feel like it's very live when you listen to the songs that made up the songs from the movie Help, the way they were recorded. And yeah, I think You're Gonna Lose That Girl is a song that just can't miss.
It was on my list.
It was
like 13 songs, yeah. And in my life I have a whole bunch.
Well, I tell you what, why don't we do like one honorable mention?
Well, I still got to do my number.
Oh
one.
yeah, Tom.
I'm sorry. Oh wow, I'm sorry
Let's
about
do
that.
like
Tom.
2 or 3 honorable mentions.
See, I lose my
All
train
right.
of thought when I think about You're Gonna Lose That Girl.
Sorry.
That's what it is.
No, that's fine.
That's how powerful a song it is for me.
It's a great
Right.
track. It's a great
You're
track.
gonna lose that Tom.
Yeah.
All right, Tom,
And
you're number one.
it's funny how you guys mentioned You're Gonna Lose That Girl, and for I've Got Another Girl, I kind of I like that. Just thinking about it right now, putting those two together. But I'm really excited that we really didn't have a lot of the same things. 1969, the youngest member, he gets a B-side on Ballad of John and Yoko. He gets his first A-side in October of 69. I want to make 69 the year of George, and I want to do Here Comes the Sun. Ooh, either in December or January of 70. It's not only is it just a great song and just great, the acoustics and guitar work and George's singing is great on that, but it's winter and we're always looking forward to that ray of sunshine, and I think that song kind of gives that time of year really that hope, or that optimistic, that hope for the future, that we're going to get past this, this rough winter, and and the sun's going to come shining through any minute. And I really think, and in a way it's kind of almost right at the beginning of that singer-songwriter period, and I think that kind of blends into that genre pretty nicely. And and George he blossomed on right at that right moment, right on that Abbey Road. I just think he's got possibly arguably the best 2 songs on the record, and I think they both deserved to be a single at that time.
Yeah, it's fun to watch how he blossomed from
Right.
the start to the end of the Beatles and then into his
Right.
solo career.
Mm.
But yeah, that's an excellent choice, especially when you think about the winter aspect of it all,
Right.
and you hear "I feel
Right.
the ice is slowly
Slowly
melting."
melting.
You know
Yes. Yeah.
how that would have worked on the radio at that
Right.
time. Yeah.
Number
Yeah.
one, easy.
Yeah. I think so.
Number one today, easy.
Yeah, well, it's supposed to be the most streamed Beatles
There
song,
you
and
go.
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
it
Yeah.
makes it on a lot of playlists.
Yeah.
And I think the reason why is because it fits so many different themes,
Mhm.
optimism,
Yep.
mourning,
Yep.
it can work on a lot of levels.
Mm.
Very good. Excellent
Mm.
choices from everybody. The only duplication here was
Anytime at all.
Anytime at All.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. All
Well,
right.
that's because I shifted. I might have said in my life, I had Here Comes the Sun.
Okay.
You know,
Mm.
but I played it different.
All
Okay.
right. Well, you each get one honorable mention. So, Tom, since I forgot you before, you'll get first dibs here.
You know, I think even though it was a single there in the 70s, I think with a little help from my friends could have done well. You know, top three for sure. And I think it's a very, appealing song and a very generational friendly song as well. So yeah, you got that little bit of of danger in there with the get high with a little help from my friends, but you know what, everybody was getting high with a little help from their friends back then. So I think that's a
Right,
kind of like a
right.
camaraderie type song there. Everybody gets by with a little help from their friends, and I think that's
Hey,
a
Dylan thought the Beatles was singing "I Get High, I Get
Yeah.
High," and
Yeah.
I want to hold your hand.
right. But
So
you know, yeah.
you don't think it might have been banned on AM radio?
Well,
Actually,
see,
they played it anyway.
right.
They still played Sergeant Pepper all the way through anyway
Mhm.
because it was such a big thing.
Yeah. So, to be honest with you, I would have had to have been a little older to get to know AM radio a little bit better then, because being born in 73, the greatest year in the solo catalog. Thank you very much. But
Greatest year in the Beatles
is
catalog.
probably too. Yeah,
Oh,
maybe
man.
as well.
We'll
But
argue that sometime.
yeah, I know. But I really would enjoy that as a single for sure.
Okay. Great choice. Kit?
All right, going back a little earlier, I think I've always liked It Won't Be Long. I think that is a really, energetic track. Another one where they
Yes.
get right into it from the beginning.
Yep.
It's got that singability factor, and that the call
Call and answer.
call back and forth.
Yeah.
Call and answer. And I've always liked the bridge in it. And it's, you can just picture the girls screaming to this song. It's just bursting with energy. And by the way, and by the way, from one of my favorite, I know we probably say this about all the Beatles albums. With the Beatles is one of my favorites of theirs. It's
All right, Kit.
the R&B album.
The underrated by some fans.
It is. It is.
One
It's
of my
the R&B
favorite,
album.
maybe the favorite.
I could
Yep.
see, I could see the teenagers tearing up the theater.
I know,
just
you?
picking up the seats and just going crazy.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Exactly.
It's just
today,
it's
right?
just just bursting through the speakers.
Yes.
I think this could have been
Yeah.
a big hit. Absolutely.
Kind of like She Loves You.
Yeah.
The frenzy of something like that. Yeah.
Exactly.
No wonder you like it. There's a lot of Motown stuff on there.
That's what I'm saying. The R&B album.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, Joe.
Well, I'm going to sneak too, but you'll see why it works out. You'll see why it works out.
Okay.
First of all, this is what I'm going to say. I am surprised. I thought everybody was going to have this one. And it's also from With the Beatles. I know where I'm going with this. I don't think it was a single. I think it was in Canada. Is that correct? Another song that just starts, get right into it from the beginning. And that's All My Loving.
Yep. All My Loving was a hit in Canada. And
it was in Canada, right?
Yeah, but
US.
if I remember what Pierce Hemmingson said to me, that it became their biggest hit, I believe, in Canada. Believe it or not.
Yeah, that's a natural hit. You know, I'm surprised that the capital in the U.S. in the States didn't put that out as a single. You know.
In fact, they
again,
were having chart success with the Beatles before we did in the U.S.
Yeah.
because of All My Lovin'
Oh.
coming out at the
I
time.
wonder if that had
Yeah.
something to do with it too. That the capital of Canada, because it was on the green label, right? The green swirl label, that other minty green label. Capital
There was
Starline seal.
there was a Capital of Canada single that came out, yeah, in the U.S., but it wasn't really a U.S. single.
Right. That's why
it
I'm
was
like,
imported from
I wasn't
Canada. Yeah.
100% sure. But let me just say, just for fun, we're talking about the U.S. here.
Yeah.
But there's one thing I always thought about with Beatles' very first single in England. I'm just curious to get your thoughts on all of you on this. I've always felt that P.S. I Love You was a better choice possibly for the hit single rather than Love Me Do. Now, Love Me Do did modestly well for the first shot, but I always like, and some people don't care for P.S. I Love You. I love it. I love it.
Some people don't care for P.S. Let Me Do.
No, I'm one of them.
What did they know?
But P.S. I Love You. It's got all those the moment in there when all the Beatles have a line, a word at the end. John says, "You know,
I
I
want
you
you to remember."
And I think that's George who goes, "Yeah." I didn't realize that till like the last year. I thought that might be like somebody told me, and George too. I said, "That's George going, yeah." I never thought of that. I always thought it was like maybe Paul again.
I
But
think
anyway.
that's John. Well, we'll have to go over.
Yeah, I never thought it was George. Now I'm starting to think, hey, if that's even better if it is, it's George. But it's just such a more upbeat tune. It's a good song. A lot of people don't like it. I have to defend it sometimes, which puzzles me. But
Really?
I want to know what you guys and lady think.
Kit, why don't we start with you?
I'm trying to decide because I've admittedly P.S. I Love You has never been like a top favorite of mine, although I do like aspects of it, like that part, I want you to, yeah, that part is really great. Although on the other hand, does it have energy that a debut single needs? On the other hand, I hope the virtual tomatoes won't be thrown at me right now, but I'm sick of Love Me Do.
Don't say she loves you.
Okay.
I'm sick. Yeah, and
love me do.
Yeah, I mean,
I love you.
And I mean, it's like I'm really
It
tired
almost sounds like your love and flame.
Yeah, well, there you go.
If I don't have you, I'll be feeling blue.
What have I started here?
I started. It's my fault.
But so I don't know. I just wonder if P.S. I Love You would have the right, as I said, the right energy for a debut single. I don't know, but I mean, it's a great song, but I just don't know if I would have chosen that for the first single. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I'll let Tom talk before I say anything.
I think it's fine, but it doesn't really get cooking until towards the end. P.S.
Starts right up.
Yeah, well, yeah, true.
We were talking about
but I love it that last that as I write this letter, it kind of is a little quick. It just seems a little quicker than the first time around, and I think that's when it really gets cooking. But it should be like at the front though too, because like as we said, that power of the of getting right into the chorus really helps out a song like that. But I don't know. I'd have to ponder that. I'd have to think about that a little bit.
That's something to think about.
Comments, please. Comments.
Yes, yeah. Leave comments.
I think there was a good reason why Love Me Do was chosen as the A-side, and I think a lot of it had to do with the introduction of the harmonica from the very beginning.
Yeah.
And that's very ear-catching, and I know that at the time they were kind of influenced with Hey Baby from Bruce Chanel, which used a harmonica. And they say Delbert McClinton, who played the harmonica on the Bruce Chanel song, taught John some tricks on the harmonica. But I am a major fan of P.S. I Love You. I think it was very sophisticated for when you consider the fact this is 1962, how young they were, putting out a song like that. I say the same thing about Ask Me Why, which is very different stylistically, and it's got a Latin feel to it as well. As I guess you could say that about P.S. I Love You. P.S. I Love You, at least lyrically, was the precursor of All My Lovin'. You know, it's about writing a letter to someone who's away or is about to leave. And I think it's extremely catchy, and I love the melody of it. I love the harmonies from the guys on P.S. I Love You. I think it's probably a better song to me than Let Me Do is, but yet I understand why Let Me Do was chosen as the A-side. You know, I always was bothered by when George Martin talked about the first time he met them, and he said the best thing they can come up with was Let Me Do, and yet they presented P.S. I Love You. You know, what was wrong with that song? You know, I don't understand. You know, I still
Or Ask Me Why, right? Wasn't that one? Early one?
trying to remember.
I think that was one of the very early ones.
That's a great song.
June 6th of 1962, they did Besame Mucho, Let Me Do, P.S. I Love You. I'm trying to think if Ask Me Why was one of them. It might have been. As if it was, I could see why that wasn't chosen as a single, but I think that's a brilliant early composition of theirs.
Yeah.
Very different for its time. Think that they're in their early 20s writing this. You know, in some cases, you know, Paul would have been, 20 at the time, very young, not your typical 50s song or early 60s song. It was very different for its time. Ask Me Why, I think, in P.S. I Love You. Anyway, but those are my thoughts. Did we get everybody's
Did you
extra
do
song?
your?
I didn't
did you
do
do
mine
your?
yet.
Did you
last
do your
one,
honorable
other one?
mention, Ken?
I didn't
Honorable
do my
mention.
honorable mention.
Do you have any?
I have, well, I can mention many.
No
What a
reply.
stupid question.
No reply. No reply. Martha, my dear. I
But I
closed my book.
kind of, I like to go with what automatically enters my head without any thought, because there has to be some reasoning behind that.
Mm.
But even though it was a B-side, I'm going to go with I'm Down.
Oh.
I mean, I'm Down is such a great rock song, and Paul's singing his butt off on it, doing his Little Richard, and it's extremely catchy. It's a great rock song, great vocals all throughout. You know, it's got a classic. It's the hallmark of all the great rock and roll songs of all time. It sounds, it could be easily. I know it was like he was trying to write another Long Tall Sally, and it was like another Long Tall Sally, but it works and it really cooks, and I love the sound of it, you know, and the guitar solo in the middle and everything, and the screaming towards the end, and I could have easily have heard that as being a single on AM radio.
Yeah,
And
and it crossed over into the R&B charts as well. I mean, I think that's a classic classic song where you could have had different groups of people listening to that song. I think that that's a big, I think, African American track. I think that they would be appealed to that song.
Yeah,
I would hope so,
Yeah.
but I don't think the Beatles ever had any singles on the R&B charts. I don't think they charted there. I never looked at the R&B charts in the 60s.
Right.
It's always been the pop charts for me, but you could say that about Got to Get You Into My Life then, with the R&B
Right.
feel of that.
Yep, exactly.
But yeah, I mean, that's one of the many reasons why they were so popular, is this cross appeal on so many levels, and they did so many genres of music, and you can get people who love rockabilly and country music into the Beatles for what they mixed into their catalog of songs. But I mean, this is just a small sampling of what we think would have worked as singles, and I'd love to hear from everybody watching this show right now what songs they would pick. So by all means, please write to me here on the YouTube channel. And this has just been a real fun idea that I thought I'd throw at these guys, and
Loved it.
they could come up with. Yeah, so we'll come up with another one
we're
pretty
ready.
soon. And don't forget that we have our show, Talk More Talk, every other Monday night at 9 p.m. Eastern on our Facebook channel, a Facebook page, Talk More Talk, a Solo-Beatles videocast. After that, it's heard on every virtual platform, thanks to Kid O'Toole, who gets it all over the place, and also on our YouTube channel as well. And if you can, please subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't done so already, and subscribe to mine. So, Kit, And Tom and Joe, thanks for doing this.
Yep, thank you.
And,
Thank you,
Pleasure.
Ken.
and we'll have you on again. And all these people are going to be like, they're regulars on my YouTube channel. So don't be surprised when they pop up individually too. So I like to get podcasters that are out there. And if there's any Beatle podcasters that would like to be on this channel, just let me know. Okay. We're all one big community. All right. Thanks so much for joining me. Thanks to all of you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Take care.
Later.